My own private Idaho. I mean, River Phoenix playing a gay street hustling narcoleptic, and then you got Keanu Reeves playing a trust fund twink with daddy issues. No notes. To close out Pride Month, I figured I would share with you guys one of my all-time favorite queer films ever made. I am very influenced by this film from not only a filmmaking standpoint, but an editing one as well. And I never get tired of watching it. Some boys grow up playing house, and some hustle outside of them. In My Own Private Idaho, we follow Mike Waters, a street hustler searching for his mother, a sense of home, and maybe just one person who won't leave him. Then there's Scott Favor, a rich boy slumming it for funsies until daddy's money kicks in. And together, they ride on a dreamlike odyssey through lust, loss, and highway breakdowns. It's a bit strange. It's got splashes of poetry, being partly based on Shakespeare's Henry IV, Part 1 and 2, which I don't love, but I've grown to like it and to accept it. The film was made with a $2.5 million budget and grossed over $8 million worldwide, being a moderate financial success, which is somewhat of a head scratch with the film being produced and distributed by New Line Cinemas, which is a major studio. Writer and director Gus Van Sant wanted the movie to have a wide release and play in shopping malls, as he mentioned, but just after production, New Line created Fine Line Features, which is its special art house label, and this resulted in the movie having a very limited number of prints struck and only playing in select art house theaters. So Gus was like, damn, I might as well have just made the movie independently, which I agree. And speaking of New Line Cinemas, they hated the Shakespearean dialogue that comes in and out throughout the movie, but the foreign distributors loved it and they wanted as much as possible. And in the end, the pressure from the distributors it made Gus, he decided to keep all of it in. The film was the result of 3 projects coming together. The first was a modern adaptation of Henry IV called Howling at the Moon about street kids in Portland. The second was In a Blue Funk about 2 Spanish cousins living on the streets of Las Vegas who decide to go to Spain after seeing their last name on a Spanish map, and they want to go and find out about themselves and their family. Then the third was titled My Own Private Idaho about a hustler who gets picked up by a German auto parts salesman and is kept at his house. Gus had trouble finishing the individual scripts, so he just took all 3 of them and then meshed them together. Initial shooting was delayed while River Phoenix was filming Dogfight from '91 and Keanu was filming Point Break from the same year. I did a video on Too Fast, Too Furious, and somebody said that I should watch Point Break because it has the same type of vibes going on. So I don't know. One day I'll watch it when I'm in the mood. Knowing that information about the 3 different stories, you can kind of feel the separation of some of the events that the boys get up to. But then again, the film is less about what happens and more about how it makes you feel with its non-linear narrative and experimental editing. So grab your duffel bags, your unresolved trauma, and open up that little third art house eye you got, and join me for a long bike ride as we travel down the never-ending road inside My Own Private Idaho. The film opens with a dreamy cowboy tune that we will become very familiar with throughout the story, as we lie on a textbook definition of narcolepsy, which is a condition where one has brief attacks of deep sleep. After the title card, our protagonist Mike steps into frame on a long winding road. Like I said, the Shakespeare dialogue starts coming and there are quite a few soliloquies from these characters talking to themselves and to the audience. you know the deal. Our first soliloquy is Mike telling us how he always knows where he is by the way the road looks. It's one of a kind, like someone's face, a f***ed up face. Then bro howls at a rabbit.
Where do you think you're running, man? We're stuck here together, you shit!
Mike's been staring down this road for too long because that damn narcolepsy starts kicking in, and before he knows it, he flaps on the ground, slipping into oblivion. Whenever these intense episodes come on, he gets these old memory flashes of his mother. She's not dead, as far as we know, they just don't currently speak. Gus shows us these beautifully strange visuals of mountains, a country barn, and one of the film's main themes, Cattle Call by Eddie Arnold, begins. I love this song. It fits so well, that cowboy-esque of it all. I mean, these shots are just gorgeous. Are you kidding me? The neon title cards begin as we open back on Mike, whose eyes are twitching. I wonder where he woke up this time. Currently, we reside in Seattle. Heavy breathing eases in before we start to put two and two together, and he appears to be getting some sloppy toppy guac guac Neckington Nitro Blaster 3000. As I said, I adore this editing so much. The camera stays on Mike's face when he climaxes, and then it shows this barn coming down and it smashes down. I don't need to tell you. I love visual cues like that. I'm not gonna harp on, all my favorite shots, but that's just, we just started, and it's like you know the vibes. You know the vibes, bro. The camera pans down on Mike as a man tosses a few bills onto his chest and goes in the bathroom. This guy never shows up again, but his name is Walter. Mike's crouching up by the bathroom door asking if he can spot him $10 more. And after Walter asks why his father can't spot him, we learn Mike's father drowned himself at the Boxcar Canyon. Mike's like, come on, I'll owe you a date. Come on, Walt. He slides him a 10 under the door.
Thanks.
In one of my favorite shots in the film, Mike stands at a crosswalk where across the street is a woman looking uncannily similar to his mother. His body starts floating forward as his visions start back up. That night, Mikey's out on the strip and scores a trick. This gent makes him take his shoes off at the door, giving him slippies. And when the men take a seat in the living room, Ginger Man calls himself the luckiest man alive. He was born on April 4th, 1944. 44. Add all that, it comes to 16. 1, 6. 1 plus 6 is 7. The luckiest number of all.
You know your math.
Right, like, what we doing here? If we ain't talking money, I don't want to talk. Ginger Man tells Mike that this isn't math, it's immaculate perfection. So playing into his little immaculate fetish, Mike's like, boy, this apartment is a mess. When it's actually spotless, Mike is in this odd outfit, scrubbing counters with Dutch cleanser while the Ginger Man starts dancing in the living room, saying, faster, little Dutch boy, harder. I think the sound is turning him on, so just keep going, Mike. Make the money faster. And when he's done, Ginger Man says, and now, my lucky 44th little Dutch boy, you must scrub Daddy Carol. Yet again on the strip of male hustlers, Mike is picked up again, but this time it's a woman. Inside her house in her study, we meet our second protagonist, Scott, and a recurring character, Gary. Scott tells Mike the woman's cool, she just likes to have 3 guys because it takes her a while to get warmed up. Ain't nothing freaky going on. Mike enters her bedroom, seeing more symbols of fish around her room. And when he picks up a shell and puts it to his ear, he starts hearing the sounds of the ocean. Elena teleports from thin air and Mikey starts getting his flashes before falling out.
Miss Keisha. Oh my fucking god, she fucking dead.
I mean, she does look like his mom. Scott and Gary carry Mike's body outside, and Scott tells Gary about Mike's condition, assuring him that the homie isn't dead, and we learn that this narcolepsy is caused by chemical reactions in the brain, and it triggers when homie is stressed out. Scott picks Mike up and takes him somewhere safer by a tree, lies him down in the grass and whispers in his ear, "When you wake up, come back to town. I'll be waiting for you. You'll be safe here in this comfy neighborhood than in the city. I grew up in neighborhoods like this." Then says a very Shakespeare-esque line about his rich, obnoxious father before taking off his coat to cover Mike. Then he takes a cab with Gary. We cut to an adult video store where we see lines and lines of boys on covers, and some are the characters we will see frequently. Scotty Boy is our main focus, and he's on the cover of Mail Call. And you want to see something funny? Probably shouldn't be showing you this, but I'm going to. I mean, this is some gangster shit, right? This is fly. Now you might ask, have I gone out in public with that? And the answer is no, because that's not something that I would take to a grocery store or picking up my sushi, running a few errands. Like, that is a very specific a very niche accessory. I gotta be on the town. I gotta be out and about. Word. Yeah, you know, the real ones are gonna get it. I remember showing my mother when I first got it. It was probably 2021 or something. She gave me the blankest stare. She was like, why do you have that? And I was like, why not? Scott starts talking about how he never thought he could make it as a model, but he's fine with it all as long as the photographer doesn't come on to you and expect something for nothing. If the guy can pay him, then hell yeah, here he is for him. He'll sell his ass, and he even does it on the street occasionally for cash. Proceeding to say that it's when you start doing things for free that you start to grow wings. That's quite a take. I don't know about that. I wouldn't say that. Up by the G-string cover, Mike is posing on a pole, half asleep, and he clocks Scotty, bringing up how him and his daddy are rich. So what the hell what you doing all this for? The pictures around Scott start moving and criticizing him, and Scott tells us Mike is right. He is going to inherit a lot of money. I found out that this scene, surprisingly, was not done with CGI. Remember, this is 1991 when they were filming. What can you do with a $2.5 million budget, right? CGI is still, and back then you can only imagine how expensive it was. The individual pieces were filmed with the actors standing behind large pieces of plexiglass, with the mock magazine cover on front, and later with optical effects similar to those used in matte paintings. Mike wakes up the next morning, walks down the road, and is approached by a German man in a pastel yellow car who asks if he wants a lift. This yellow car is Elena's car, the woman from last night, and this German guy, Hans, is a good friend of hers.
Any friend of Elena's, a good friend of mine. You want to be my friend?
And Mike is like, no girl. Hans says he's been living in America selling pieces for cars before telling Mike to get in the car and he'll take him wherever he wants. No. And Mikey Mike is not having it. Sorry, no young twink dick for you. Mike curses him, saying to himself that this guy is a pervert. He can feel it. But here we go again. Oblivion starts kicking in. Mommy from the past invades his vision and he falls out on the ground. We're now in Portland, where Scotty is holding Mikey's body by a statue titled "The Coming of the White Man." Yikes. This is one of my favorite shots in the film, and fun fact, this statue is real and still exists in Portland, but the man on top of it was added by Gus. That is a production assistant covered in grease paint and sitting perfectly still. Scott tells Mike Hans brought him downtown after he passed out, and they fuel up by going to their favorite Chinese cafe. This is so sad, but Mike asks Scott how much he made off of his body. Oh my god, what? But Scott assures him he wouldn't sell his body while he's unconscious. He's like, no Mike, I'm on your side. Right. And this is also the first time we hear of a man named Bob Pigeon. And Bob is, well, the equivalent of a pimp. Scott used to also have a thing with Bob, or a heavy thing, as Mike puts it. Bob was in love with Scott. He taught Scott better than school. And Scott even goes the length to say that he loves Bob more than his mother and his father. Gary comes walking across the street in the most hideous outfit I've ever seen after a 3-day hiatus in which he was traveling with some hairdresser. He's showing Scott his new Nikes, his Calvins, and Mike is like, what a clown. Later on, Mike's having a bowl of miso soup when a young woman across him blows smoke in his face, and he's like, you know, when I'm eating, not to blow smoke in my face.
It's a smoking section.
This next little insert are these interviews that Gus did at the cafe with actual male hustlers. These are real stories, and both of them are extras in the film. The first story's from this character named Digger, and in real life, the guy's name is Mike Parker. Mike? Yeah, yup. He was the inspiration behind our protagonist, Mike Waters. And do you know what else? He was gonna play Mike Waters. He was gonna play our protagonist. Then the actor who played Gary, Rodney Harvey, he was gonna play Scott. Anyway, this monologue from Digger, the character or whatever, I honestly think it's just Mike talking to Gus, telling him the story, and they just put it in. Mike was picked up by a guy in a black Porsche, and before he asked his friend if the dude was okay, his friend said, yeah, he'll treat you really good, he'll pay you what you want, and he'll even smoke weed with you. He'll do whatever. Now mind you, Mike hadn't dated before or tricked or done anything yet, so he decided to take the chance. This older guy took him to Washington Park, and before they got there, Mike was he laid down the law. You know, he told him what he would do and what he wouldn't do, but when they got there, the man just decided to do whatever he wanted. They were deep in the woods and Mike couldn't get out. He wouldn't do what this creep wanted, so the guy flipped out on him and he pretty much assaulted Mike. Shoved a wine bottle up his bump. Like, Jesus Christ, it's horrible. The second story is from this guy in black. I couldn't find his name and I don't know the character's name either, so for the meantime, we're gonna call him Trevor. Trevor was hanging out at the city club, frying really hard on acid and speed, when a big black guy who had a lot of 8 balls of speed and a lot of money came around, wanting to get his Snickers bar swallowed. Trevor was desperate and this black guy offered him $60 and some speed, so he was like, alright. They went up to his hotel room and the plan was that Trevor would toss the money out the window down to his buddy Scott, not Keanu, who's hanging out on the street on a bench. So they get up there in the room, the black guy starts getting naked and jacking off, and Trevor starts freaking out. He's like, no, I don't want to do this date anymore. Let's go down the street and I'll get the money back from Scott and we'll just cancel it. Well, they get down the road and Scott is gone.
Okay,
Trevor's like, oh, let's just wait 5 minutes. 5 minutes go by. The black guy's telling him he's gonna kick his ass, you know, just threatening him. So Mr. Trevor had to go upstairs and do the date anyway.
Yeah, big ol' cock and shit. It was just a really awful experience.
It was his first date and he never did another one until a full year later. All the male hustlers sleeping across different rooftops wake up simultaneously, just as Bobby the pimp is first seen on screen. They all start hooting and hollering that the fat guy is back. Or in Scott's words, his real father.
Here comes Santa Claus!
Scotty travels through the abandoned building full of the homeless gang and finds Bob's room where he's sleeping, and Mike is, snorting his coke. Michael Waters, I'ma beat your ass. Bob jolts awake, the powder spills, and Bobby Brown asks his true son, what time is it? What do you care? Scott says. Why, you wouldn't even look at a clock unless hours were lines of coke, dials looked like the signs of gay bars, or time itself was a fair hustler in black leather. He tells his true father there's no reason to know the time. We are timeless. Mikey's ass is over there knee deep in the baking soda, but Bob is not a fool. He notices his missing Sour Patch Kid powder, getting off the bed screaming for his assistant Bud. blood because this hotel is full of thieves, junkies. He tells Scott that he's the root of his corruption. You see, Bob used to be a virtuous man. He swore a little. He gambled several times a week, never picked up a street boy more than once a quarter. Gary brings up how the next morning there's going to be some small-time rock and roll promoters coming back from a gig, and every night they walk home with the loot. Give me the loot, give me the loot. He has an idea that they should all jump them when they exit the bar. And Mike is like, yeah, I ain't going along with your little crackpot scheme, especially since Gary came up with it. But Scotty Boy tells Mikey he's got a joke he wants to play, a joke that he can't pull off alone.
Come and rob with us tomorrow.
Oh, I was going to anyway. I was just kidding.
Yo, let me bring up that Mike briefly brought up how Scott is getting an inheritance when he turns 21, which is right around the corner, a week to be specific. And Bob is all up in his boxer briefs, right? You know, that big pot daddy wants some shmoney. Like, huh? And it's supposed to be the other way around? Talking woo-woo about forgetting robbery and being Diana's foresters, gentlemen of the shade, minions of the moon. Okay, I didn't need to see that. Why he run out like that? Scott tells Bob when he turns 21, he doesn't want any more of this life. His mother and father will be surprised at the incredible change, and it'll impress them more when such a up like him turns good, versus if he had been a good son all along. Therefore, all his bad behavior he'll throw away to pay a debt. In his exact words, he says, "I will change when nobody expects it least." The next morning, well before dawn, all the hustlers wear pink robes and watch the drunken skunk rock and rollers stumble upon the hill.
How long has it been, Bob, since you could see your dick?
4 years, Scotty. 4 years of grief. Blows a man up like a balloon.
Scott tells everybody what the plan is, but him and Mike run off to an area where they've laid out disguises. Bob successfully whips out the booga, frisking the rock and rollers up against the wall, taking the box. Take the box. Inside, there's a bunch of tickets to the next show and a single stack of money. But, where is Scott and Mike? They scare the Pink Clan off so bad that they run away, leaving the box. Scott's father, Mr. Favor, is in a wheelchair, giving us a subtle hint that his health is declining. He orders his staff team to find his son, who has been rumored to be hanging out with robbers. Scott and Mike ride through Portland in another one of the film's most famous visuals, looking very cutesy together. Scotty stops the bike, asking his boyfriend, how long have we been on these streets? On this crusade? Mike came back to town 3.5 years ago, so the boy's been hustling for almost 4 years. And what Scott is getting at is that through all of that, they're still alive, right? God bless. They ride the stolen bike all the way inside the abandoned building, where Bob soon starts berating Scott for being a coward and dipping during their robbery.
And that goes double.
You calling me a coward, you fat duck?
He said, "You fat duck, please." The boys ask Pimp Daddy where the shmoney at, word, and Bob lies straight through his little rotten teeth. He tells him it was taken by 20 or 30 punks. He was grabbing all of them. He was just he thinks his arm is broken from the fight. Certainly a toe, definitely a rib. And Mikey is having a key. This joker begins an entire monologue about fighting off these imaginary thieves. I mean, 1 second it's 4, then it's 7, then it's 11 of them. And yet he started out saying it was 2. And then at one point he said, "I couldn't see anything. So how could you count them?" Like, you just lying. Why are you lying? Scott goes into his own monologue talking about his pile of jelly father before him, revealing the truth of what actually happened, that Bob ran at the clink of a sound, and Mikey reveals the stack of money hidden inside his jacket.
What new trick do you have for us now, Bob?
Bob's gotta save his ass now though, so he motions into the, oh, I wouldn't kill the heir apparent. You know, he wouldn't turn on his Scotty. Why, you see, Scott is the only ticket out of this poverty and oppression for them all, right? Fatso puts his hand out and Scott Pilgrim takes the stack from Mike, giving one single bill. Exactly. The pigs start trying to break into the abandoned building and one dude's banging a tool at the front entrance before turning to his peers and saying, if we're looking for a fat man, why don't we just get one under the bridge? Bud tells everyone the sheriff and his posse are here, so split. The cops raid the joint, running through the halls, and the sound of two men moaning gets closer and closer.
Oh, baby, yeah. Oh.
Scott and Mike are dry humping, and Scott is on top, and he's like, "Ooh, wait.
Oh, wait.
Moves the cover and he sees the pigs at the door like, aha, what have we here? The pigs recognize him as the son of Mr. Favor and let him know that they're looking for a large fat man. Fat as butter. And Scott tells them he's not here, revealing Mikey under him. But if he sees this fat man, he'll promise he'll send them over by dinner time tomorrow. But in the meantime, can you leave us alone? Keanu is picking at River's nipple hair and he is trying so hard not to laugh as he's like smacking his hand away. A man in a suit steps in saying Scott's got a message from his father who'd like to see him as soon as possible.
F you.
Look at Mr. Reeves looking scrumptious on that bed. He does visit his father though, wearing a jean jacket and a leather choker. And his daddy is like, I don't know if this is God trying to get back at me for something I did or what. He brings up Scott's cousin Bill, who lives on a ranch, and blabs that he should leave his estate to Bill because Scotty doesn't hold a candle to him. And beyond that, he's no older than Scott, yet he manages all these businessmen and has an ambitious 5-year plan for the forest, blah, blah, blah. Nigga, you gonna keep me on the wheel or not? Cut the shit. The boys are now wondering where they should go, and Mikey suggests visiting his brother, who lives somewhere in the potato state, Idaho. Scott's bike is struggling to start back up, while Mike is admiring the familiar road, the road he's been on before, the effed up face.
I could say, have a nice day or something.
The scenery is beautiful. I want to visit this road one day, take my Mike Waters jacket, and have a photo shoot. That night by a campfire, the boys sit. And okay. Ooh, I know I say it every 5 seconds. I know that. We know this. Everybody who loves this movie will tell you that this is the highlight scene in the movie. Scott saying how it's nice to get away from everything, bringing up how his maid asked where he was going when he left his father's house. And he replied,
Wherever, whatever. Have a nice day.
Mike's talking about how if he had grown up in a normal family, and a normal family in his eyes is, you know, a mom, a dad, a dog and shit. Like, huh? Then he says he would have been a well-adjusted person. He tells his companion he'd like to talk with him, but really talk with him. Mike starts opening up about him feeling like he can't be close to Scott.
How close? I mean,
I don't know, whatever.
But then that quickly turns into Mike asking Scott what does he mean to him. No. Scott clarifies that they're best friends, and Mike's like, no, I know we're friends. We're good friends, and it's good to be good friends. That's a good thing, so.
That's okay. We can be friends.
I only have sex with a guy for money, and 2 guys can't love each other.
Not too much, but this next line of dialogue, I will break down crying right now. After Scott's love line, Mike is like, yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, for me, I could love someone even if I wasn't paid for it.
I love you and you don't pay me.
Why did I just do that? What's that meme with Vince McMahon? Yeah, that's how I feel every time I watch this, like... And it's the way that I go from tearing up to busting out laughing, because right after this, Mike is like, I really want to kiss you, man. And before Scott can conjure up a response, Mike says, good night, man. Then slowly puts his arms around himself. Oh, what the fuck? This is a mood. This is a mood. He said...
I love you, though. You know that.
So Scotty's like, all right, Buddha, come here, embracing his homie, telling him to go to sleep. The fans of this film are well aware that this campfire scene was not in the script, but in addition added by River Phoenix. He wrote it in private on little scraps of paper, and Gus was under the impression that he had been writing song lyrics and was surprised when River showed it to him. Gus is very collaborative with his actors. He's not, you know, this is the script and we're sticking to it. Filmmaking is very collaborative. There's probably little moments in some of your favorite films that weren't even in the script, but directorial choices, right? Actors can come up with stuff that a writer, director, whoever never would have thought of, and then they'll be like, wait, you know, that works, like that word, let's fly, let's add that in there. When Mike wakes up, Scott is trying to get the bike started and a cop rolls up on them, so this dude starts running. Yeah, I forgot the bike was stolen. Though the cop doesn't even ask for registration, Scott tells the man he needs help turning it over, and the piggy does. The boys make it to Mike's brother's trailer, Richard. He makes them sandwiches and gives Mike a pic of him and his mother. Miss Waters had Michael Jackson at a very young age at an institution. Scott goes to the bathroom, and only seconds later when he comes out, Richard is screaming, grabbing all over him while Mike is having another narcoleptic episode. His brother is a painter, and this terrifying ass picture still bothered. Like, why you put this jump scare in the movie? A little bit of time passes, and you know, when nightfall, the trauma comes out, and Richard tells his brother he wants to tell the truth about their mother. And brace yourself, I'm just letting you know it's about to get weird. Richard starts talking about how Sharon would go out at night looking for different men when he was asleep, going to bars, shaking her ass at anybody that was interested. Then he brings up a man who worked at a casino. He dated their mother and he was a scumbag, but she fell in love with him, even though he just wanted some of the kitty meow meow, you know the vibes. And Sharon Stone bought a Smith & Wesson, a .38 revolver. Loved the thing so much she slept with it under a pillow. She was stirring the stir-fry vegetables with the gun loaded. So one night, she goes to the drive-in movie with this cowboy to see a John Wayne movie, Rio Bravo. And during, she took her loaded gun, stuck it in his mouth, and blew his brains out.
Don't me in the head anymore, man. I know the truth. I know who my real dad is.
He's telling Mike all this, trying to gaslight him into believing that this man was his father. Mike, he know the truth.
You, Richard, you're my dad. I know that.
Richard gives Mike a postcard he got from their mother. Don't ask why there's blood all over it, because nobody knows. And the paper mentions her finding a job in the lounge of the family tree. She says if Richard's ever out this way, look her up, and this sends Mike into tears. And Richard gives his crying brother / son a hug. The boys go to the family tree, and the manager says that there was a Sharon Waters who worked there about a year ago, but she split, saved up all her money, and moved to Italy. She told the workers she was looking for family, although she didn't look Italian. Then the manager shows them a card with her address. If this was realistic, there is no way in hell he would have showed them. You know, this guy could be anybody. Scott casually looks behind them, and he notices Hans, the German guy who gave them a ride to Portland. Oh, shit. So you know what we gotta do now. Put them twink powers to use. They roll up on them, blast from the past greetings, and Hans tells the boys 407 before walking away. Inside room 407, my favorite shot of the movie. Let me have it. Sometimes I can't pick okay? But no, I always forget about this shot. This is it. This visual is my favorite shot in the movie. Quote it. Mike is in the tub taking a bubble bath, and Hans comes knocking, saying how excited he is. And Mike's like, "Can you please wait your turn?" Hans tells Mike he's ordering room service, so Big Mac Mike asks for 4 orders of large French fries, extra crispy, and a Coke. Hans repeats the order to him, confirming, and then Mike says,
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank
See you soon.
What?
See you soon.
Yeah, right.
This Hans guy is so creepy, showing the boys a pic of his mother, rubbing up on Mike's legs, and then going into a bore about how before he sold car pieces, he was a performer. Mike tells him to put the CD on, so Hans moves the chair, take the jacket off, he about to give him a show. Scott's laughing and Mike is like, what am I doing here? The song playing is some European German avant-garde shit, and I don't know, but Scott turns the tape off, thank God, and claps for him out of respect. Hans asks how the boys got so far out to Idaho after he left them in Portland, and Scott brings up his motorcycle. He tells Hans that they're at the hotel to sell the motorcycle, and that's his love language. So Hans says, "Okay, so let us go down for some business, right?" Look at Mike, pouty and ready to get it over with. This is another scene I adore. There's another one. All the love / sex scenes are all shot in stills, but they're not actually stills. Like we can see the camera moving a little bit, and we can see them trying to hold the position. It's I don't know how to describe it. It's very stylistic, and I love it. We're shown multiple stills of all 3 of the men having a threesome. At the airport, at the counter, the boys give each other the look, saying, the name Hans translates to God is gracious. The boys make it to Roma, and Mike wakes up outside, surrounded around a bunch of yapping male Italian hustlers, when Scott hops out of the cab yelling for Mike. Inside the taxi, Scott says he told those guys to take care of Mike while he went to grab a car. They ride out into the countryside all the way to their mother's address. Mike starts calling out for her just as an Italian girl greets Scott. This is Carmela. This isn't her house, by the way, it's her uncle's house. The boys' luck, or should I say Mike's luck, can go but so far, right? Because guess what? Carmela lets Scott know that the American woman who was there left a long time ago, back to America. Are you kidding me? I wouldn't know whether to laugh or cry. And the reason that Sharon went to Italy was to teach Carmela to teach her English. Later on, Mike is a crying mess. I don't blame him. And at least his boo is there to comfort him. Somewhat. He thanks Scott for coming all this way for him and lets him know that he's ready to go whenever he is. But oh look, Scott he's getting freaky with the Italian girl in our second love scene. Unfortunately, over half of the stills from this scene I cannot show. It's a little too much nudity. River said in an interview that Keanu was having a lot of fun filming that. I bet his ass was. But unfortunately for them, it was like freezing cold, and that shoot in that bathroom to film that scene, it took them 5 hours. 5 hours to shoot that. Anyway, Mikey is now third wheeling, and I don't blame him for being pissy. He's making faces at the dinner table with a cigarette as the two flirt, blowing his cig smoke at him. Like, goddamn, he's even got to listen to them screw at night. The next day, Carmela tells Mike she thinks she's fallen in love. No, you're not. They screw at night again, the horrible cycle brewing right before us. And just take a look at this shot right here. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm gonna just let this frame speak for itself, because we know exactly what's happening. This gay for pay twink is abandoning his, what he called, best friend. Scott tells Mike he's gonna take some time off and maybe he'll run into him down the road before handing him some Italian cash, which is his share of the bike, before telling him he fell in love. Traitor! You know what? You know what? I understand Olivia Rodrigo now. I would burn it down, Mike. I would burn it down. If I can't have you, Scott, no one will. Wait, never mind, because I think the house is made out of like cobblestone or something. Girl. Well, put bamboo in the yard. Call the ancestors. Something need to happen. Bastard. Imagine the last 20 minutes of this film turning into a thriller. Well, yes. I don't know. Scott apologizes that they didn't find Sharon, then leaves with Carmela on the spot. I mean, wow. Left the dog, left his best friend. Like I'm truly at a loss for, like, that's all I can say. I mean, wow. Mikey is back to hanging on corners with Italian male hustlers, and he finds a trick for the afternoon. But bro doesn't even understand what the hell the guy is saying. Oh Lord, here we go again. Mike falls out and the Italian guy notices he only fell asleep because he can hear him snoring, so he leaves. We cut and see Mike being woken up by a flight attendant who tells him he's made it to Portland. Mike is back inside the Chinese cafe with a bumpet in his hair, watching a street couple make out and having flashbacks. He's still out on the corners and he finds another trick for the night. He's picked up by a supposed old friend whom he's asking how's his wife, hey, where are we going, what we gonna eat, where we gonna eat at, you know, and the man is crickets. In the hotel room, Mike is watching The Simpsons, enjoying himself until the ATM comes out the bathroom ready to start business. Look at him, he's like, oh my fucking God, bro. Look, just seeing the pain and discomfort all over his face. Someone save my man. Bro is in the streets laughing to the sky, probably drugged out of his mind. But it also could be him tripping with the narcolepsy. Look, I don't know, but what I do know is that Mike needs some love. He needs Mary J. Blige. He needs some real love. This next shot makes my blood boil. Mike is laid out in the streets asleep, and the camera pans, revealing us to be inside of a car. And Mr. Scott Favor is all dressed up in the back seat. Oh, you Hollywood now, huh? Man, this nigga got me up, punk ass nigga. What is you talking about? I should smack the out this nigga. Lil bro Young Money now, and he left the most innocent one of them all out in the streets. Since you didn't want to love him, the least that you could have did was give Mike an apartment, help him get back on his feet. Use daddy's inheritance. But no, I'm gonna take my Italian girlfriend, my Italian bitch that I met a week ago, and we're gonna get married. I'm gonna be a politician.
When you see me when you see me in the streets. That's all I'm gonna say to you, bitch. You're a blink. You know what I look like, and I know what you look like. So when you see me, just be ready for that handwork. That's all I'm gonna say, bitch.
Another night, Mike is laying with Bob and Bud, and they catch Scotty roll up to a restaurant with the 3-piece suit. So you know Bob is going to go in there and make a scene. And look at who's inside the bar. Hans. It truly is a small world, isn't it? Scott gets some compliments from some straight businessmen who give their condolences about Pop passing away. And you heard what I just said? Just so I'm making it clear, so it doesn't sound like I'm exaggerating. Scott is big shmoney now. He turned 21. He got his inheritance from the trust fund that was set up, and his father passed away. So he also got the life insurance policy. Those are two different things. Like, bro is actually Hollywood now, and you fucking dirty dumpster mouth bitch. As soon as Bob and his minions come in, Mike is nowhere to be seen, and the elites are looking them up and down like, what in Caucasian hell? And Scott won't even turn around to face this man. He is that unbothered. Bobby is on his knees saying, "It's me."
I don't know you, old man. Please leave me alone.
And yet what he is about to say completely contradicts what he just said. Scott's final words to Bob are the following. When I was young and you were my street tutor, an instigator for my bad behavior, I was planning a change. There was a time when I had the need to learn from you, my former and psychedelic teacher, and although I love you more dearly than my dead father, I have to turn away. And now that I have, and until I change back,
Don't come near me.
cold-blooded. I mean, I don't care about this jelly bean, but I'm worried about Mike, you know? But yeah, anyway, Bob actually dies, and he says God's name 3 times and has a heart attack. Scott Favor literally broke his heart. At Mr. Favor's funeral, Scott sees in the distance a different funeral happening. His second father. All the homeless are singing Bob's name out of sync. Mikey and Scotty lock eyes for a brief second before Bud begins the chaos. He throws a chair, now everybody is thrashing, yelling. Why is this low-key a ritual? I'm screaming. They are raising a lot of frequency in that little corner, yelling his name out.
Right.
Imagery from the beginning of the film starts back up as we go back to Idaho, where Mike closes out the film. He's saying how he's a connoisseur of roads. He's been tasting roads his entire life, but this road will never end.
It probably goes all around the world.
The camera continues backing up in this crane angle until we see 2 men stop their vehicle, rob him of his bag and his shoes, then drive off. And a minute later, another car stops, with a man coming out to collect Mike and put him in the car. It cruises off down the long, never-ending road, and the world keeps rotating. Our final still are the words, "Have a nice day." If I could describe this film with one word, I would probably say lonesome. Just think about the title, My Own Private Idaho. It's inspired by the song Private Idaho by the B-52s, which Gus listened to while visiting the state. I'll read you a few of the lyrics now. Keep in mind that these are not in order, but I want you to see the recurring theme here. You're living in your own private Idaho. Beware of the pool, blue bottomless pool. Don't let the chlorine in your eyes. You're out of control, the rivers that roll. You fell into the water and down to Idaho, walking through the gate that leads you down to a pool fraught with danger. It's a pool full of strangers. Water, isolation, emotional dissociation. The lyrics point to disconnection from the world around you. Everywhere Mikey goes, his trauma manifests in the people around him and in everything he sees, triggering the narcolepsy. He's trapped, always in the dream world, waking up somewhere new, almost always alone. It's like he's in limbo, between cities, between people, between dreams. Then there's his last name, Waters. Quite a few times we cut back to the shot of the ocean, the fish flying with the waves. There were the fish pieces in Elena's bedroom, then when Mike picked up that shell and heard sounds of the ocean. We know water is the element linked with emotion, memory, and the subconscious. Water doesn't have boundaries. It flows, it pools, it leaks, just like Mike's reality. I wonder, could the film be trying to make some type of like juxtaposition with the sky, all the shots of the landscapes that we see? You know, when Mike was in Idaho, like a flip between the highs and the lows. But then I thought, when was Mike's life ever high, other than him being high on drugs? An early draft of the script had Mike's character as what's described an inveterate pot smoker who had some sort of memory disease, and he used that to control his environment and minimize his responsibility. But these traits would later be exaggerated and more tragic for Gus's final film. We're never told when his narcolepsy started, but studies have shown narcolepsy begins in the mid-teens to early adult years, though it's linked to a deficiency in hypocretin, which which is a neurotransmitter crucial for wakefulness, the causes are still not known. People have theories about this disorder being tethered to some sort of trauma response because the trigger is always stress and anxiety related. But again, that's just a theory. Narcolepsy can come on at any age, and I'm sure Mike's had it since his childhood. Him falling asleep and collapsing under stress is his body ejecting him from reality. The life he lives, the stuff he's been through before the film started, that sleep is just his dissociation from it. The man, I'm gonna say it again, the man just needed some love. He deserved somebody to save him. Mike ends the film exactly where he began it, on the road that never ends, passed out alone. His arc is circular. Time doesn't seem to be healing him, it just loops. Could Scott have broken that loop? Absolutely, if Scott was gay, but hey, you know, that's unfortunately a lot of experience for queer people, falling for the straight one, right? Quite ironic that Scott's last name is Favor when everything he does is transactional, and when he ends that era of his life with the privilege to do many a favor, he turns his back on his chosen family, the man he called his true father, his best friend. What bugs me the most about Scott is how he stamped an expiration date on his rebellion. He's playing poor, playing queer, playing dangerous out in the streets because he knows he can cash out. That's privilege. Mike does not have an escape route. I already mentioned that elements of Scott's storyline were taken from William Shakespeare's plays Henry IV Part 1 and Part 2, which are about a young man trying to avoid following in his father's footsteps as a government leader. But there's also bits of Henry V, where post-Daddy's death, the young man abandons his amateur friends, becomes respectable, goes to a European country, and he brings back a wife, starting a political career. Scott's identity is wrapped and tied around Daddy's inheritance and becoming the man his family expects. But his father died. He didn't have to stay in that role. And his line about two guys not being able to love each other just proves where his state of mind has always been. So honestly, would I even want him to end up with Mike? Not really, because Mike deserves someone who actually loves him, not someone who performs their queerness, moving through it like a phase. It's hard to say if Mike will ever find his mother again. I don't want to be bleak here, but I highly doubt it. Home for Mike is but an illusion. It's a dream, a distant memory. He will probably be eternally searching for his mother. What adds to the tragedy of this already melancholic story is that actors River Phoenix and Rodney Harvey began their heroin addictions on the set of this feature, and both died of cocaine and heroin overdoses. River in October 1993 at the age of 23, and Rodney in October 1998 at the age of 30. I went down a rabbit hole on Reddit where I was seeing multiple speculations about River's sexuality. Some say his descent into addiction stemmed from him struggling with his bisexuality, and some say it's that and how he also threw himself headfirst into these roles that he played, citing his addiction came from that curiosity to understand the character of Mike Waters. River hung out at gay clubs, he received a BJ from a guy because he had this role coming up, and he said in an interview that his inspiration for Mike was from being around the cinematographer Bobby Bukowski for the film Dogfight, which he did prior. Now, allegedly, Bobby said he had sex with River twice, and Gus said he always felt that River was dropping hints about his sexuality, but Gus didn't follow them up. There are other stories, but those are just a few that kind of made me turn a little cheek. I had a little River phase when I was a teenager.
Just wish that I could go someplace where nobody knows me.
just incredible. So to be able to act like that so young too. And I mean, you know, the boy had a very dark upbringing. He was the oldest of a bunch of kids. Him and his family, they were in a cult and they ran away, lived in a van. It's a mess. And if you aren't aware either, Joaquin Phoenix, who's probably most recognized for playing the Joker, that's his younger brother. A short scene was cut from the end that showed the driver of the car that picked up Mike was his brother Richard, but Gus cut it because he felt the ambiguity worked better. And more than that, he said he realized in editing that the movie was about making your own families and not being tied down to the one you're born with. Mike's brother was portrayed as a dick, so maybe him ending up with family isn't for the best. Who knows who's in that car? It could be the love of his life who takes him to Italy. I don't know. End quote. Wishful thinking. No, I'm just kidding. I love when directors do that. I like ambiguity. Like, leave it up to the audience. See what they take away from it. But while I'm saying all of that, I also just cannot see anybody else other than Richard, because it's not only did he confirm it, but it's so obviously him. Like, I can just tell from the outline. So I can't even try to trick myself into being Delulu and imagine that it's somebody else. My Own Private Idaho isn't about a place, but more so a place that follows you, a loneliness that follows you. It's mental. Even when surrounded around people, it's the ache of wanting to go home, even though home doesn't exist anymore. Maybe it never did. Something I admire about Mike is that he never lies to himself. He's not pretending to be okay, pretending to be tougher than he is. He's just trying to survive. But that survival, that hole he's in, keeps on looping. The series of exits, people leaving, promises fading, and time keeps on passing while he sleeps. Mike Waters is never grounded. He falls like water, drowns in memory and trauma, and keeps slipping through the clouds. As for Scott, he's every person who's treated queerness like a phase, performing when useful and abandoning when inconvenient. Idaho, if anything, is a warning, a metaphor, a place where we hide the parts of ourselves we think are unlovable, damaged. And the best thing you can do for yourself is to try and break free, because if you're not careful, you just might get stuck living there forever. What's your take on My Own Private Idaho? Does the non-linear narrative appeal to you? Does it bother you? Leave me a comment down below. I would love to read your opinion. If you enjoyed this video, give your man the thumbs up, subscribe if you're new here, and if I seem like your type of man, consider, turning on that bell notification or something. I know you want to, and I know you don't want to miss one of my uploads. Come on, just do it. Just do it. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Until next time, my loners and my cowboys, take care of your mind, take care of your body, and take care of your spirit.